Welcome to Mechs on Deck. It is Wednesday, our weekly episode with a guest. Today's guest is Luke Barron, co-founder of Smith+Rune. How you doing?
Doing well, yourself?
Doing well. I must say that you are probably, people were talking about it earlier, you are the Greek god of the keyboard community.
An Adonis of an individual.
You haven't graced us with the tank top today, but I guess we appreciate that because I think it might kill some people in chat.
Hey, we have been informed that a tank top is available. So
True.
just keep that in mind, chat. If we get enough people requesting it, then maybe we can make it happen.
Yeah.
But how's it going?
Good. I'm up in Seattle right now. So I'm from Boulder, Colorado, but I'm traveling for work this week. So I'm on a work laptop. So sorry if the quality, sound, internet isn't the best, but we'll make do.
Well,
sometimes you got to, man. We managed to get through a few streams with people on another continent, so
true. Very true. You know,
Right.
it makes the attractiveness level a little bit closer between you and us. It might bring you down a little bit.
Stream at like 120p or something here on the
hey, man. You know,
Oh man,
those pixels just adds mass. You just cultivate mass. oh my gosh. Chewie gets the beard win. I'll take it. It's a red beard. I have the whole multicolor hair thing going for me. That's about the only thing I have going for me. But no, quick.
Have hair going for you. So
yeah, mine's slowly going away as well.
Man, look at this. Nothing.
There you go.
I've been blessed. My dad still has most of his hair, so I just got really lucky. Anyway, shout out to our sponsors real quick. You go to Zap Cables, get some of the best, if not the best, I will say the best cables in the business. You can go get some cool white coiled cables right now. So however you desire of the USB types, and heat shrink is customizable, so that's a nice little add-on. If not, grab yourself a DIY kit or one of these cool desk mats that I keep seeing on our Discord, as well as Osiris. Quick funny story. I had told Zap, I was like, I really want that flower one, but you should send it to Osiris so he can do it for the bumper video, and I've literally never seen it in person.
I'll bring it over next time. Next time I see you, I'll bring it with me.
So, and then next up, Project Keyboards. So you can go to mechsondeck.project.link and pick up a Tengu. You only got a few more days left. Be sure to use our link. That really helps the channel out. Tengu is a pretty solid board, as well as GMK Perestroika going on right now. So be sure to check that stuff out, as well as they just released the new Lilac tactiles. And what was the other? What's the linears called?
They're like a white and pink. I can't remember what the name is, but they're
linears. They don't matter.
thank you.
Wow. Mauve linears. Thank you.
Mauve linears. So be sure to check those out as well.
Absolutely. And then we have switchmod.net. You can go to switchmod.net/mechsondeck. Pick up GMK Metaverse. You can use code Chewy or code Osiris with a 0. Gets you $5 off Metaverse until the 18th. And then with our link, you get 4% off anything in stock. So they've got some T60 boards still up, and they are doing some restock of lube here coming up. So keep your eyes out for that if you're looking for some 205 grade 0, 3204, or 3203. And then last but not least, Dixie Mech. mechsondeck.dixiemech.com. Check out Modern Dolch Lite. It's going to sell a ton, but if you're looking to purchase it,
already has sold a ton.
Yeah.
It's already it doubled Modern Dolch in like one day, or almost doubled.
Yeah, it's a great set. $99 base kit. Pretty insane deal. So definitely check that out, and then check out the Mech Madness on the Dixie Mech Instagram. We have a big part in that, and we're excited. So we want y'all to participate.
It'll be a fun time. Quick shout outs. SG Prevail, thank you for the follow yesterday. Talisman Solutions with the 1,111 bits, and Owene and O'Camel Sucks. I think I'm saying that right. You said, hey, sexy boys, but one, singular, and two, that's a man. Luke Barron, co-designer of the Iron 165, and quite frankly, I can't think of anybody yet. You have to have the title of the most jacked man in mechanical keyboards. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I was trying to go off of. Do you guys remember Muscle Nerd? Way back in the day, he used to jailbreak iPhones in like 2008,
Yes.
2009.
Yep.
So I was going for that aesthetic.
Oh, well, there you go.
You're just trying to find your niche. You're not like actually into keyboards. It's just like you just wanted to be the jacked
Like,
guy.
I just
in
want to
the
be
community.
I just want to be the jacked guy. Big brain moves.
What hobby doesn't have a jack dude in it yet? This one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I guess I answered your questions on how I got into keyboards.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Don't need to go over that. So barbecue kimchi. I love that question, and I will happily ask that in just a moment. We're going to go through the fast four real quick. So top 4 favorite switches.
Number 1, probably Holy Jesus, Holy Panda switches. After that, T1s with creams, and I have some like 52 gram cat wee wee springs in them. So really light. Because I'm going to bottom out no matter what. So the faster I bottom out, the faster I type. And then your Zykos that I found there. Woo.
Oh yeah,
And
dude.
then I got to mix it up a little bit. Been getting them in slowly. I would say Zeliostatls.
Really?
There
Yeah.
you go. I tried some like 2 months ago. Not bad.
They got a good little snap to them.
Yeah, a solid switch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
All
I
the
will be
Franken
bringing.
switches.
Yeah, dude, all the Franken switches. I will be bringing. It's not over there. I put it up, but my Fiel with Zykos, so you can test out that one. I know you had you tried out IMEURU's Zyko board. So
Yeah, and it was like right next to actual Alps Brown. So I had that on one and like this on the other, just going back and forth.
it's fun. It's a fun comparison.
Yeah.
So I think I'm only bringing one board, I think, to Denver just because traveling with boards is tough. And it's probably just going to be the Fiel with Zykos in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we spent a long time in IMEURU's hotel room after the meetup, just like literally just like typing on Alps Brown, then Zykos, and then Alps Brown, then Zykos. Then we were like, let's see Zelio V2.
Outside of spring weight, they were really, really close as far as feel.
Yeah. See if Kenner asks, why am I on the bottom corner? That's probably Discord's fault.
Yeah, it just kind of happens. Things get shifted around, and sometimes you're above me, sometimes you're to my, what would that be, on left? Well, my left, I guess on the screen it's to my right.
There you go.
But next up, top 4 favorite keyboards, excluding Iron 165.
So without a doubt, number 1 is definitely the number 2. Contemporary red, best colorway, best board. After that, I've recently really been keen on the Matrix Able X RX78. Then I would say the Volcano 660, partially because of its design, partially because it kind of kicked off the whole iron thing when Vox lost it. So it's really, I have to attribute my keyboard rise to the Volcano 660. And lastly, I would actually say the Fiel, just because of how good it sounds. Not that I necessarily like 60%, but in my opinion, it's probably the best sounding keyboard.
It's unheard of. It's crazy. So next up, keycap sets.
So for as far as like looks go, number 1 for me, SA Camping.
Yeah, close enough. Close enough.
So good looking. The fact that it's a full sculpt, like I don't like when SA goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. I like that it actually goes 3-4-4
Mhm.
for SA. So SA camping right there. And then after that, I would say SA Godspeed, which plug is going again later this week.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's going to be less than 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. And then GMK Carbon round 2, just because, again, that row 0, row 5 full sculpt. I should specify the Carbon Bone is my favorite. And then I would say, lastly, EBPT's Grayscale. Just because I can type on it, not shine it, and I don't feel bad. And it kind of goes with everything.
Yeah, I do like Grayscale a lot. I sold mine. I sold mine off just because I was like, I don't really have a use for this at the moment because I have too many other GMK sets coming in. But I did try. We both tried your Singa with Carbon on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember both of us, because we were like, is this 9s? And then we were like, oh no, it's got row 0. And that was at least the first time for me on a 75% where you can really see the difference. Because sometimes on like a TKL or a full size, the effort, it's different. It's far enough away that it can be neglected. But when it's right on top, it was cool to see that. So
it definitely makes that, because the Signa has the what I like to call squished 75, where it's like compact, and it really made it was cool to see kind of the slope,
the full dish of it. Yeah.
the full actual like profile that is possible with GMK. Surprised that more people don't utilize that, especially in a time where there's so many GMK sets. Be a cool way to kind of differentiate yourself a little bit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that, and I mean, you could throw it in another kit. I mean, at the end of the day, you just need an escape and an F row, and like 5 or 6 other keys, and boom, you've got row 5 or row 0. So,
well, last of the fast 4 will be your top 4 favorite foods.
So my favorite food overall is going to be, I know it's like generic, but I'm going to say Indian food. Specifically, it'd be like korma. So shout out to Capsy, our little Indian boy. After that, it's got to be Chipotle. For being non-GMO, by the way. So when I was cutting for a bodybuilding competition, I basically lived off of Chipotle and protein shakes. So they hold a special place in my heart. And then on the opposite scale of that is going to be In-N-Out Burger. So the fact that you can get a combo for like $8, amazing. Had it 3 times earlier this week already because they just opened up one up in Portland where I was at earlier. The first day I waited an hour and 3 minutes to get In-N-Out Burger.
sounds like you need to try Whataburger.
Right? Actually, you live in Florida too. So
there you go.
And then after that, I would say is probably like dim sum, some Xiaolong Bao. I actually just had that here in Seattle for lunch.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that nowhere in there was protein shakes, because I'd be like, come on, man, they're not that good.
Like, I love a good protein shake. I'm like, no, you haven't had a greasy hamburger enough recently. Capsy, I think so. Capsy, I think. Side note, back to Zycos. Capsy built in Austin with Zycos, which is insane. When Drifting Bunnies told me that, I was like, that's dumb. It's like that's awesome, but man, what a board. So moving on, for those of you who do not know, actually, Osiris, do you mind posting a link to the Iron 165? So the Iron 165 is probably, at this point, it is, I would say, the most anticipated board of 2020. I think it's got the most hype stirring around it. So I don't know anything about whether or not it's on schedule or not. But 65%, couple different options you could get with some copper, flare, or your standard brass and aluminum. So if you guys want to check that out on that link, go check it out. I'm not a personal fan of 65% layout, but I will say, we got to see it at NorCal, and we got to witness the design aspects of it, and the design aspects of it are incredible.
Thank you.
So, but maybe talk us through we've had Vox on before, but maybe from your side, talk us through designing, start to finish.
Yeah. So it really pretty much all started in Gray's studio. So we were all in there for the Think 6.5, which was super hyped back in March 2019.
Yeah.
And one day, Vox had always been teasing that he was going to release his own board. And I think I'd said on his little Discord link at the bottom, hey, as long as it's under $2,000, I don't care what it is, I'll buy it from you. One day he had messaged me. He was just like, hey, are you really a mechanical engineer? And I was like, yeah. He was like, so you know how to use AutoCAD and stuff? I was like, I use SolidWorks, but yeah, I can do that. So he's like, would you want to help me on a board? And I was like, sure, I'll help design it. And he was like, how much do you charge? And I was like, first one's free, like cocaine, right? So we ended up actually working more as a partnership because we never really brought up money again after that or how much it would be. It was just, we felt so in line with each other. But he essentially just gave me a list of everything that he wanted. So he'd been thinking about it for a long time. So he wanted, a 7 to 8 degree typing angle. He wanted a 65% layout with a blocker like a 910. We wanted a full isolation gasket mount. He wanted seamless sides. He liked the way the M65 weight kind of went up the back, or the back plate went up the rear of the board. Just everything like that he pretty much just laid out. And I drew up a really generic version of it in SolidWorks. And then we just kind of refined it and honed it from there. So it was almost a design by committee. So it was me, Vox, Jeff, and Ben that were all just in a group chat together. So I'd throw out an idea. What do you think of this bezel thickness? No, let's make it bigger, smaller, whatever it was. And then just distilled it down between all of that into this board that we all agreed looked great.
Definitely does.
It's a beautiful board. I know that not to steal your question, because I know you're Osiris has infinite love for the plate. So can you talk about the plate design? Because that alone is intense.
Yeah, so we knew we wanted to do a full gasket mount. And then before, when the Jane came out versus the Jane V2, it had all those relief cuts all around it. So I was like, hey, wouldn't relief cuts probably feel better on a gasket mount? If gaskets feel good and a relief cut top mount feels good, what happens if you put the two together? And one of the things that Vox really wanted too was, a really consistent feeling keyboard. So he took to heart when Norbauer at KeyCon last year said he wants to see, the evolution moving forward scientifically of keyboards. Not, oh, this looks fancy and nice, but why does it look fancy and nice? Or why did we do these things? So we thought about, hey, let's try to make it as even feeling as possible. So I got to work in CAD or in SolidWorks doing finite element analysis on it. And one of the inspirations was, I forget which keyboard it was that I saw on GeekHack, where they had just done, a press right in the middle of the plate and showed where it had flexed, and if they cut out the spacebar part of the plate, things like that. And the very first thing somebody said on there, they just crapped on it. They're like, oh, it doesn't have switches in a PCB, so this is worthless. So the very first thing I did was model it with switches, a little smaller test plate with switches with a PCB. Did SolidWorks' most complicated modeling of, a fiberglass or glass plate PCB with a fully, what was it, a PA66 plastic or something like that. Essentially the force of what my fingers just tapping on a scale were, which was about 2 newtons or so. I'm like, that's probably as high as anybody's going to see, just to see how the force distributed over that plate. And then compared it with the parts are allowed to do anything and interact however they want with each other modeling, which is the most complicated, to a fully bonded model. So it treats it as one piece, to just the plate. And I found that just the plate compared to they can interact however they would in real life with each other. The distribution of force pattern was almost the exact same. The only thing I noticed was it was about 35% more movement in just the plate. So that would make sense because there's less material, less resistance. So it's okay, well, I'll model just the plate then to save my computer from dying doing all this computation.
Catching on fire.
Right. So then I did every single key press one at a time, modeled it out, see how the plate moved itself, and then just tried to average them by putting weave cuts. So I couldn't add stiffness back to it, but I could take it away. So I took what was the furthest displacement switch essentially, and then tried to make the rest of them like that one. And actually, I don't know if you guys saw that interest check that just posted last night for the Evolve. So
No.
talking with Nathan Mann Alpha about that was really cool, because I had looked into generative design for it and using, essentially cloud computing, and throw 1,000 computers at it to make the perfect plate itself, to make something that deflects perfectly, is even and perfect. But every company I'd reached out to that does generative design, because I actually interviewed with a company to do that.
This one.
That's how I found out about it. They couldn't do it based on the parameters that I was looking for. So I know Nathan actually wrote the code like himself. So he designed his own plugin to be able to make that generative design plate. So it's not like he just bought, an off-the-shelf CAD thing and was like, oh, let's try this. Like, he worked through it and figured out how to do it on his own to be able to make that plate. So, like, shout out to him for, really going the next step in my mind as far as plate design goes, to make something that's uniformly and perfectly consistent.
Yeah, that I was actually looking at it yesterday. I didn't look into the entirety of it as much. But man, that board is going to be nuts. Like, that plate looks crazy. I think it's funny that he's like, don't worry, it's possible.
People need to understand, like, he's designing it with 70-75 aluminum.
Mhm.
And aluminum's like 300 times stronger than plastic. So I know it looks like it's the skeleton thing, but you're not going to break it. You're not going to bend it. Like,
If it breaks, that means any other board that any other board that takes enough damage,
right,
it's gonna break. It's not like you could throw that one. Like, if it's like, oh, what if I drop it on the ground? What the fuck are you dropping your keyboards on the ground for anyway? So
Yeah, because so for us metal noobs out here, what is the difference between something like a 70-75 aluminum and a 60-63 aluminum, which I feel like is probably the more
aerospace standard?
Yeah, the more standard in our hobby.
So there's all these different grades of aluminum, and essentially there's alloyed with different things. So like aluminum 1100 is almost a perfect pure aluminum, and they're just going to alloy them with trace amounts of different metal to get different material properties that they want out of them. So whether it's harder, more machinable, has better tensile strength, can be drawn into a wire easier, all these different alloys that you can add to metals are going to help with that. So to kind of go into that, my last job that I worked at was actually for an explosive welding company. And so we would bond dissimilar types of metal together through a cold weld process. So we could take aluminum and physically weld it to, say, steel. So I dealt with a lot of different grades and alloys of different metals doing that, and kind of learned a lot about them too. So it's really cool if somebody needs a titanium for corrosion resistance, but they need 4 inches thick of it to make a pressure boundary layer around something. Well, titanium's $21 a pound. You don't want to build something 4 inches thick of titanium. You could get 4 inches thick of steel for 78 cents a pound, and then just explode a 1/4 inch of titanium on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's such a cool sounding process.
Yeah, those are all words I totally understand.
Some metals together.
Yeah, they actually use AMFO on top, so ammonium nitrate fuel oil. That's what was used to take down the Oklahoma City government building or whatever back in the 90s. So they just layer that on top of them and then ignite it in a mine, and then just the force drives the two together, and it kind of makes like this wave boundary layer between the two different metals.
That sounds like it would also like look really cool, just like visually.
Oh, if I were at my house, I actually have like a sample of it. I always wanted to make, so it's called cladding. So think like all clad or something, like your pots and pans that are two different metals, that are put together, clad. I actually wanted to do like a board of it, like try to buy some scrap of them. But the hard part is machine shops, unless they know what they're doing, they don't know how to machine it.
Right.
It looks cool though.
Yeah. Sure. Because I'm sure, does that process play with the hardness levels of the two metals?
Not so much the hardness, but it'll mess up the shear strengths and stuff of them. So it actually, where that bond zone is actually stronger than the two independent metals themselves. So if you took a shear test on the aluminum and say it sheared at, I don't know, 10,000 psi, and the steel was 60,000 psi, that center part would actually be higher than either of the two independent ones. So, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like post-weld heat treat and stuff like that goes into them afterwards to relieve stress and all that kind of stuff. So
heat treating process is actually Chewy. It's actually fairly easy. It's you get it hot, then you get it cold,
fucking
and then you get it hot.
If I look like I have no idea what's going on, it's because I have no idea what's going on. I'm like, yes, totally. These are words. I don't know shit about metal. I know metal is hard. Yeah. And to not touch it if you think it's hot.
So when you see the Evolve, the point is it's not going to break, and metal is really hard.
It's not going to break if you treat it like every other keyboard.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
If you're going, oh look, I could break it and hit it with a hammer.
Right. Or if you like grab a piece of it and like torsionally twist it.
Yeah.
It's probably going to break off then, because you're adding this torsional stress to it versus what it should be designed to see. Something like that. So
the only reason I know about like tempering processes, because I occasionally will go down a rabbit hole on YouTube where I watch like metal crafters who will make like knives or axes and stuff, and then it's like 5 hours later and I'm like, why did I just watch a 20-part series on making one knife?
Right.
What's really funny is, so like the Mechs on Deck channel we both log into often, and so we'll like message each other like, why the fuck were you watching that? And for me it's usually like, he's like, why were you watching like multiple NSYNC and Backstreet Boys video back to back to back? Or like, today I watched Peppa the Pig because I work with children. And his are like, we're going to take a potato and microwave it for 45 hours and see what happens. So I'm just like, I have no idea. But you know what? It's YouTube. That's
all spectrums. Like, I think I listened to I'm on a Boat this week repeat like 10 times.
Hey.
Because I was texting one of my friends. I was like, hey, I'm on an airplane right now. And I was like, wait, I'm on a boat.
Take a look at me. That was a good song. It's a classic. I think I went down the rabbit hole last night of watching. There's this guy. I think he's in Korea. I don't know where. He's in Asia somewhere.
That's awfully racist.
Okay. But he makes knives out of random random materials. So he'd make like a knife out of styrofoam, but not like just like he forms the styrofoam, sheet of styrofoam into a knife. Like he'll go through a whole process of like melting it down, getting it harder, like condensing it. And he does it for like a ton of different things, and it is super entertaining, and you have to like glued to it because there's very little to no audio. Because he is, Android says he's Japanese dude. Yeah, he is. His videos are awesome. Like they are awesome.
Are you big into knives then too? Because that's like a whole hobby in itself. That's probably as equally expensive as keyboards, if not more.
I'm not into knives, but I do like watching. I do like watching the like making of knives. Like there's a kid that he is from the UK now. I think he's in Montana, named Alex Steele. That I watch his videos sometime of him making like knives or different things with metal. And he uses a lot of like old school processes, does everything by hand still. I appreciate that kind of craftsmanship. So
I was just out at Benchmade knives on Monday here in Oregon City, Oregon. They don't use handmade processes. Everything was CNC'd. It was pretty cool. So that was for work though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can check out Benchmade knives too. All made in the USA, handcrafted on a CNC by a programmer.
Handcrafted by a robot. So all this metal talk, why copper?
I think it was just the fact that nobody had really used it yet in a keyboard. So we've all used brass, and we knew it sounded cool. It was heavy. That was probably the main thing too. Like copper is just a little bit more dense than brass.
Just right there.
And then after that, you jump to like silver and gold as far as density goes, or tungsten, which I didn't want to deal with and didn't want to afford a board that's, made out of $20,000 of silver just so it'll make more than copper. So I think that was the big reason why probably copper was, hey, nobody's really done anything with it before. Let's see how it sounds. And, it's a really dense material. I think that also led us to like the stainless steel top on the FE2. It was like, hey, we could have done an aluminum top. It would have been about a quarter of the price then, but steel's close to the density of copper and should last for pretty much ever on a keyboard if you're not dropping it on the ground all the time.
If you're not treating it like the Evolve.
Yeah. So it was like we picked like the two most dense materials that we really could to make a board out of and make it our Founders Edition. Just to like almost like an art piece, like, hey, make a splash in there, not because it was economical or anything like that. In fact, the first design of the Iron 165, or the current design that you see right now, like I didn't think economically at all about the machining processes or anything like, oh, how could we optimize this or save space on that or make it easier for this? It was like design first, cost second.
Absolutely.
There you go.
That's how it should be though. Like if you're like you design it, you get what you want out of the design, then worry about the cost later. Like
Right.
Don't hold yourself back until you absolutely have to. And even then we're growing in this hobby now. I know that we can get into this in a little bit, but because I do have one question that I have to know. But boards are becoming more expensive. It's just a thing. It's just a thing that's going to happen in the hobby. I mean, you look at most hobbies, things just get pricier. The more people in, the more demand. It's simple supply and demand. Speaking of expensive, Langlandia asks ask you about how much the solid gold iron would cost, as apparently you have done the math.
It was actually for just the base plate itself, like the underside. So
just the bottom.
So when we were looking into it, we were looking to see if we could get it machined in the USA. But because of my last job, I knew all of these material supply people that would give me, a decent deal on raw metals. So the cost of the plate of copper was like almost $300. It was like 21 pounds of copper that it was going to take to just mill the bottom part of the iron, is what it would start out as. And if you did that with gold, it was like $896,000 of gold. Granted, the machine shop is going to be able to recoup probably, more than half of it. So hopefully they don't charge you for all of it. I know when I was in a thermodynamics class, they were talking about gold, some gold processing plant, and they would like retrieve filters for gold dust from the air and like scrub the filters to get it back off to retrieve it. And then they actually found like when they had moved locations, like the fans that were driving behind those filters were all just plated in gold, and they stripped all that too. So, I mean, people will do anything to, try to save this metal. So I'd expect that although 896,000, probably realistically more around like 500,000 for the bottom.
Easy. I mean, and that makes it viable. That's where you can start going, okay, well, now let's talk.
Yeah.
Just a little bit over that $2,000 price threshold you had set.
Right. Exactly.
Just a smidge.
Just a smidge.
So I feel like there was... it was just the Bauer, of course. Another great. Why can't we get more of these awesome 60%? Bauer Iron 165. Anyway, sorry. So, and then I want to talk about the patina process.
Yeah.
So you sent me some pictures a long time ago. First talked about the Iron 165 of these the badges, because for those, if you haven't seen the board, there's the top right corner, the 16th most right top key has been replaced, kind of like the TGR 910, and I want to Q did that, where they have that top right blocker for a badge, and that badge is, I guess you can get it. I believe you can get it in the different materials and colors that you want, but he patinaed it, and that was like mind blowing. It was beautiful. And tell me about that process.
Yeah, so originally I'd shipped the board to Jay to have him do his build stream, and when it arrived there, that badge was just like scuffed and dirty and horrible looking. And I was like, oh my God. So then when I got the board back, I scrubbed it with a wire brush, brass brush, since they're, almost the same metal. Copper's, or brass is like 70% copper. So similar hardness. So I knew it wasn't going to really scratch it or anything. But to be sure, I started on the back side first. So I boiled it in vinegar and salt water and scraped it with the brass brush to knock all the patina off of it. And then I tried just coating it with just some like sealant on there, just to see if I could get it back to how it kind of originally was. That didn't really work out too well. I didn't use enough. So then I scrubbed it again, got all that off, and then I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna patina this. So I read online, the ways to kind of force patina and get cool colors out of it. Because normally when copper patina is just through air, think of like a dirty penny. It's just kind of like a dull brown, which I really didn't want. I wanted more of those like greens and blues that you're going to see in the Statue of Liberty. So I had read that ammonia vapor patinaed copper really well. So I got some Tupperware, took the badge, scrubbed it nice and clean, sprayed it with salt water then. So they said spray it with salt water, put it elevated above the ammonia, and just like set it out in the sun, so that way it kind of vaporizes and just it's in this ammonia air bath. And that copper badge actually only took like 2-3 hours to get to the level that it was at. So it did it really, really quick. I left it overnight for a full 24 hours just to see if it would grow any more of those like blue crystals on there. And it didn't really. So then I took it, went back, got some more clear sealant, because I didn't want to knock any of it off through use or people touching it, things like that. And then just sealed over it. And it's been pretty pristine ever since. Then I did it to the bottom copper weight also. So because I had a prototype iron PC board that we had a copper weight in, I could copper patina the weight to match the top little badge. So it's kind of a one-off thing with that. And then the other way you can do it too, I read, you can use Miracle Grow if you wanted a green look. So Miracle Grow will do green crystals, ammonia vapor will do blue crystals.
So if you want to be like on a list for something, you don't want to
go buy
you
some
can
ammonia.
go get Miracle Grow, or you can go be on a list and buy a bunch of ammonia and be banned from going anywhere near schools. So
that's not too bad. It's not too bad.
No, but
it
looks beautiful.
One thing that I found very interesting but awesome at the same time was the prototyping process for the Iron 165. You prototyped not only just the general board, but every single color. What was the thought process behind that, and how important was that prototyping process for y'all?
So originally we did an FE, and then the Plum Standard Edition, and then Drifting Bunnies, as I'm sure you guys have all seen, had a PC prototype of his Austin made. So he was talking to me about that, and I was like, why am I not doing this in PC? I'm going to try it in PC too. So I got a PC prototype made also. So we had originally those 3 made. We did the Plum because we figured it was going to be, if any color looked horrible, it was going to be that color. right? Like, let's see what it looks like. If it's awesome, which it turned out to be awesome, then we'll do it. If not, then no harm, no foul. We know a dark blue and a silver or a gray is going to look fine. Doesn't matter if it doesn't hit the perfect shade, they're going to look good. So we did those 3 prototypes. I found actually that the screw holes needed to be a little bit bigger for tolerances on the copper. So I actually had the FE base made again. And then for the other 2 colors, we revised some small changes on it. So we put like a little fillet around the weight and around the bottom of the case, lowered a lip on the internal sides of it. So nothing too much that you would see. So because of those changes, we had 2 more boards made, and we're like, we might as well go get them in the remaining colors just to see what they'd look like. So that's how we ended up with 5 different prototypes of it.
God, that plum though, man.
It looks amazing. I'm so glad that happened. I was very worried when y'all did the color, the straw poll for the different colors. I was like, man, I really hope plum wins. Just like,
I could pull up. I mean, the Discord conversation in our mod chat is literally, there was like an entire day where he wouldn't shut up about plum.
And this was me. I was like, I can't afford this board, but I want this to exist. So one day when I can get it. Yeah. Because I was like, at the time it was like right around when, this was another one that was right around when I purchased my OSA, and I knew the BACA was happening like the next month. I was like, I can't really justify spending like almost $500 on something else. I was like, but I want this to exist, so maybe one day I can find one.
Yeah. So the plum turned out amazing because we were originally only going to do 2 colors. So we had 3 colorways, and we were going to narrow it down to 2. And it was so good that we couldn't cut one. So luckily our vendors agreed to say, hey, go ahead and do all 3 colors because people really want them. And it actually turned out that the plum was 49%, I think, of the sales itself for the standard version. So almost 50% were plum. And then 30% were gray. And then I think 20% the navy color.
Well, see, there you go. Now half of the iron 6. Yeah, that's just more chances for you to get a plum. So
Right.
There you go.
So, I guess my next question is, what is next for Smith? I mean, I know you guys are still completing I guess is updates on the group buy. For those who don't know, obviously it's in group buy. Where are we in the group buy?
So the Founders Edition are 100% complete. They were going to be shipping to us before the Chinese New Year, but we wanted to wait for the hard cases for them. I didn't want the boards to be opened up and damaged in customs or anything like that, shipping in a crate. We want them each individually packaged in their hard case and then shipped to us that way to make sure nothing bad happened. Like, I'm sure you guys saw, the pictures of the Keplers and some of those that had like a freaking screw put back into it when they put the case back together, stuff like that we wanted to avoid. So we actually held off having them shipped to us until after the Chinese New Year when they get the keyboard cases. So the FE's all wrapped up, ready to go. We're waiting for the cases and PCBs on it. The SE has completely finished machining and is going off to anodization after the Chinese New Year. So as soon as they open their factories back up there, and I know the coronavirus, delayed everything opening for like 10 days. But we still have enough padding built into it that I think we'll hit our delivery times in March, no problem.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, and this is, I mean, if you guys want to know how to run a group buy, look no further than Smith+Rune. I think you guys have been very upfront with everything and I have not heard anyone complain about the Iron 165 outside of the price. And haters gonna hate on price, I guess. So.
Right.
But it's realistically, when you look at it, it's not that much more than anything else. It's not like it's a wild difference. Obviously, the FE was expensive, but copper's expensive. Just
right.
It is what it is.
The stainless steel was super expensive. To machine the whole top out of stainless steel was just ridiculous. It was about 4 times more expensive than had we done it with aluminum. But I remember the very first day that we did announce the pricing on it, and Reddit blew up. And I PM'd probably like 1,000 people that are like, why is this board, almost $500. And I'm like, you have to understand, it's a seamless design. I'm essentially taking 2 complete boards worth of aluminum and machining them to make one board. So I'm using double the material because I need 1-inch thick stock of the top case. I need 1-inch thick stock of the bottom case. And then I have to machine both of them. So I'm machining 2 whole keyboards to make one keyboard. So it's priced more than one normal side seamed keyboard that uses a 1/2 inch on the top and a 1/2 inch on the bottom, and then a 1/2 inch worth of machining of the top and a 1/2 inch worth of machining for a button. So most people are actually really understanding. They're like, oh, okay, well, I didn't realize, that's what went into making a seamless board. And like I said earlier, it's, it was design first, cost second in our mind. Actually, it was probably like design first, cost like 29th. Or something.
So, and then what other people, I mean, if you look at it, looking at the plate alone, I'm like, people like realize that this took an incredible amount of time and a lot of manpower. Now I know, and my first thought was like, well, who needs manpower? You've got Luke Barron. He's got more manpower than anybody in the hobby. But it's time and effort. And so, yeah, when at first I was kind of like, oh, that's a lot. But now, granted, 65%, so it was never really on the table for me anyway. But after thinking about it, and then the FE, because the other one was priced, I think, pretty fairly compared to what we're seeing across the board. That was fine. FE being a lot more, I was like, I mean, at the end of the day, they can do what they want. It's an FE. There's going to be less of them, and on top of that, you're now having to deal with a lot different material than what you're used to, and then it's steel, and so it's just like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, and the plate alone's worth freaking $400. So
yeah, and having them all prototyped is like we ended up using 5 different metals, or 5 different materials, I should say. So we had like polycarbonate, aluminum, brass, stainless steel, and copper. So all of them require different cutting speeds, different bits. All of them have to be reprogrammed and machined differently. So there's just a lot that went into it.
Mhm.
Urban, thank you for the $3. He wants us to ask you how you got so strong and muscular like brass.
Was it like brass or like brass?
Like what? Like brass. He's yelling at you about the brass.
Pretty much contribute my physique to eating healthy, non-GMO Chipotle and
protein shakes.
And protein shakes. And you should appreciate the non-GMO portion of Chipotle. It's like an inside joke for us because he doesn't like Chipotle.
It's simple.
Yeah.
Hey,
I love me some
if
Chipotle.
you come down to Dallas, you gotta try out El Queso. I don't know. They might stuff their stuff with GMOs, but who knows? But you should try it. It's, in my opinion, better than Chipotle. So fight me. Actually, now I don't know. See, because
I was like, Chewy, that's a.
I don't know, man. I sit there, but I have that like awkward gorilla strength because I don't work out. But I'm just like, my physique is much closer to like if you look at a strongman competition,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, oh, these just giant dudes. But granted, muscles probably not there as much as it used to be. But
mass is king. So
maybe we'll have a very public arm wrestling competition.
See, I was supposed to arm wrestle Kelly at SoCal, and I'm actually glad I didn't because I have tendonitis in my elbow.
Oh, dude, same. Hell yeah. So we can
This
just
isn't even playing field.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay, I'll do it, but if I do, I know I'm going to hurt myself, and then I'm not going to be able to lift for like a month while this heals.
Well,
kind of
start planning for that. Guys, if you want to see Mr. Chewy arm wrestle Luke Barron at the KeyCon meetup, you just let us know. We can make it happen.
Maybe do a left-hand arm wrestle so neither of you are have tendonitis issues.
See, but I got a bad left shoulder because I sleep like this, which is so terrible for you. But it's either sleep or be in pain, and I'd rather sleep. So, but no. So what's
in this arm? So I have to keep it straight when I lift, but then this one I need to keep like this because it's on the other side. So it's hard to do. So both elbows are messed.
There you go. I mean, it's just a part of growing up.
I think so because I'm probably one of the older people in the hobby.
Growing up and breaking down. So what is next?
So I know you said you hate 65%.
With
What
a
are your
fiery burning passion.
What are your feelings on TKLs?
I like them.
Okay.
I think. See, and I know Osiris and I have the same thought process on this. With a TKL, it's more going for that classic look than it is functionality. Because in reality, a 75% can achieve the borderline the same amount of functionality.
Right. Exactly.
But it doesn't have that just like this is the clean TKL. So there's a lot of, to me, wasted space on it. But and this can get into a topic I know I've been wanting to talk to you about, where it's like, how do you make a TKL, which kind of has to follow this rule of how it's laid out, different from everybody else's?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking myself right now too.
so I have nothing against. I have a TKL. I bought one and sold one, and I sold one so that I could buy the other TKL that I have coming in. More just buyer's remorse of the color that I got. But so I like TKLs by all means.
I think TKLs are like the tuxedo of the keyboard layout. Like, it's just the classic. Like, it always looks good. Like, that's just my thought.
Might not be the most functional, but it looks good.
Yeah.
Right. So if you could imagine like a bigger iron, then
Well, I know Cyrus has been looking. He's messaged every time a nice TKL comes out. I just get picture, should I get? And then we have like a long discussion about TKLs, and then he's like, "But desk space."
I have two problems with TKLs. Typically. And they are like very personal, but it affects the usability at home, right? So for me, for a TKL, I don't like how big it is. I feel like I'm just so used to using either a 60 or 65 or even a 75%. But the size is one thing. I think I can get around that. The big thing is I cannot use a center or right mounted USB port.
Oh, all of them are centered and right mounted. Like there's not
Exactly.
Is there a TKL that's left?
I don't think there is. Because when I play video games, I am one of those guys that I turn my keyboard like almost like completely vertical.
Oh no, it's not a cock, it's a full bend. Like it's a full on like it's closer to typing on the side than it is forward.
Yeah. It's like listen, Colt, my desk is a countertop, okay? It is an actual countertop from IKEA.
What you should do is get an L desk so you can put your keyboard
right
back here and then your mouse right here.
But what always happens is if I use a center mounted or a right mounted, I'll break the USB, whether it's the cable or the actual PCB, with my mouse hand because I'll run into it.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. Huh. Interesting.
So, but I've always told myself I want to have at least one board of every major layout. So I've got a couple 60s. I don't actually have a good 65 right now, but that's gonna change soon. Hopefully in a couple ways actually. And then I have 75. I need a TKL, and then I do need some sort of 1800 CP Austin big board, a big boy board.
Austin Round 2 was announced yesterday or the day before. Just saying.
And I'm excited to get Osiris the Austin so that he can do a review video for it because it's awesome. Right now, just having a small issue with the PCB, those are things that are fixed. But that's just because I don't know. I'm at the will of someone else. I'm just like, please make this layout for me.
So Capsy made his, you said, with 100 Zycos.
Like $225 worth of Zycos.
So lazy that I actually stripped all my tacos out of my Think 6.5 hot swapped and only built 40 additional ones to use in my Austin. So that was the route I went.
There you go.
So wait, do you
Which-
have Zyko Austin as well?
No.
Oh, okay.
He's like, no, I'm smart.
I didn't want to make 100 and some switches of something, so I
Mm.
scavenged 60 switches that I already had pre-existing and then added 40 more.
That's why I'm, for those who don't know, a Zyko is a Zelio V2 bottom, a Yacht top, and a Halo stem. And the Zelio V2 top and the Yacht bottom are not compatible. So you just kind of have a wasted amount of plastic. So if you got a TMO 50, that's the perfect board for Zykos because it's the least amount of switches. And maybe you can pawn off those Zeal stems to people who want to make Xandas. Because I will say, Xandas are pretty cool switches. So,
True. But back to what you're talking about. Any more spicy deets you can give about that TKL?
I mean, we probably will be launching an interest check here pretty soon for it. So, and then group buy probably shortly after the 165 ships and is in people's hands. So that way they can verify, hey, this is what I paid for. This is the quality I expect. I'm comfortable now putting money with you guys again. So that was probably the main reason why we haven't launched it any sooner is that we want to, I don't want to have 2 group buys that are outstanding and nobody has a board in their hands yet.
159. Thank you for the 420 bits, bro.
Appreciate it.
So, can we not to get you can give as many or few details away. Can we expect copper?
Probably not.
Ooh.
Copper. But it's still in the design phase. I don't want to
Oh.
say anything.
It's all good. Smith+Rune has just tanked in stock. Get out now.
I'm calling it tungsten.
Ooh.
Definitely not stainless steel, though. That one is a for sure. I can't even imagine how much a stainless steel top would cost for a TKL compared to a 65%.
Yeah, that would be
Insane.
that'd be a lot. You might, that would be
That'd be a couple
very
dollars.
expensive. Especially with the new taxes and things that are going. I couldn't imagine how high that would go.
Yeah.
Tungsten?
So,
question
mark? We've thought of ideas for it. Yeah. It's been on the table. But really for Smith+Rune next, I'd say we want to, fill out the Iron series. And then I really want to focus, I think another big development will just be in sound. I don't know if I can talk to some like sound engineers or audio engineers, to make keyboards sound more consistent. So I want when you hit tab for it to sound like you're hitting your other key, or when you hit an F row key, it sounds like all the other keys. So I think that would be a really cool development too, is really focus on the sound of a keyboard and how to make it sound consistent and the best that it could. And then I have a new mounting system that I want to do sometime down in the future too. So we have some stuff in the works.
159 is trashing your switch loop.
I don't do linears, so
There you go.
The more butter you put on it, the better it tastes.
Damn right.
That's true. And
hey, lubing is a preference. I talked about that last night.
It is. We were talking about today how we should do almost like a video where we show both of us lubing the same switch with the same lube, but our respective techniques and how it changes the way the switch sounds. Mm-hmm. We can't really show how it feels, but we can talk about how the difference in feel. But doing, I think, things like that would definitely be an interesting observation for people in the community, because I feel like a lot of people don't understand like how preferential everything, including lubing, is.
Oh yeah,
there is no right or wrong way to. If I say this all the time because I'm an index finger spacebar typist, you can leave the channel now if you feel so inclined. But I type incorrectly, but my response is always the same, which is I type in a way that when my finger hits the key that I want it to hit, then it hits the key, and I look at my screen, and that's what pops up. So haters gonna hate.
You're getting bashed right now in chat about.
Me?
They're saying no, not you, Chewy. Luke is.
Oh, I was like, what did I do, man?
So I can't see it. So
Yeah.
Hey, you know what's that? I guess you got your blinders on. I like.
right. Well, I didn't trust the hotel internet connection to be able to video broadcast stream talk to you guys and have a stream up from Twitch. So for the best user experience, I wanted to forego chat.
As far as you know, you're the best luber ever. You
Yeah.
can't see, you can't read the hate, so who cares?
Does Smith+Rune ever have, or do you think that y'all will have some interest maybe expanding into, maybe getting into some things like switches with your knowledge of engineering and metals and plastics and stuff?
I mean, I'm never gonna not say no, but who knows? I like the fact that our brand too, just being Smith+Rune, we're not just tied to a keyboard.
Right.
Like if I wanted to go make a forged knife or something, I could.
And you
Something like
probably
that.
get a lot of people from this hobby buying. There's a lot. I remember one of our friends made the EDC channel in our Discord,
Mhm.
and I was like, "That's never." Oh, it gets used all the time. People talk about knives all the time. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Learn something new.
Yep.
Eric and I talk about how we could always switch over to be a vaping video. Mechs on deck, man.
Yeah.
Change it up. So I guess my main question now, you obviously have at least one Iron 165 to your name. Which colorway did you prefer? Which one of the four that came out, which one did you like the most?
So I've never seen the graphite in person. But out of all the colorways, I probably am the most impressed with plum. And out of all the boards, I actually think the SE is probably my favorite. Yeah. Yeah. I just like how the weight turned out on the bottom. The weight of it, like the FE is just, it's ridiculously heavy. So picking it up off your desk is kind of a pain in the butt. That FE. So it's like, there's the Papa Bear from Goldilocks that was just too much. The Mama Bear that was too light. Like the SE is that baby bear that's just perfect.
Just right.
It's just right.
What caps?
So am I going to put on it?
Yeah.
I have 3 sets of Bingsu coming, so I can flip to pay for the board. No.
But in the back of my head, though, I was like, Sue, like that's going to be
Yeah.
a popular. I can't imagine that you will be the only person to do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was like this holy match made in heaven, where it was like Bingsu was launching the same time our board was launching. And I honestly think that's probably why we sold 49% in the plum colorway. So I actually want to take that into consideration maybe when looking at the next board that we launched to see, what keycap sets are coming out that could pair well with it and drive off of that.
That is actually, I'd never even thought about that, where it's like, hey, what color should we offer? Because I mean, if you kind of look like, obviously it had been a while, but when the Fiel came out, Modern Dolce had been just shipped relatively recently, and so like I have the basic white girl Fiel with Modern Dolce on it. That's like the pumpkin spice latte of of the hobby. Is a round one gray, round 4 Fiel with Modern Dolce. But yeah, I've never thought about that concept of like, oh, well, we should steer towards these colors because this set's coming out, and they're both going to take 6 to 8 months to make. So,
like I think like Finer Things is going to pair really well with the teal accents from the 160 and 165 from Keycold. So I can see it doing really well because those boards are going to be coming out soon. So people are going to be looking for keycap sets to match it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that's like a minor thing, but could have an amazing effect on your group buy, on the success of maybe a color that wouldn't necessarily do as well.
Right.
I did actually have a question about because I totally forgot about this. I think I overlooked it initially on the interest checking group buy. That hard case. So is that something that y'all had custom done, or is it like a more along the lines of the TX cases, or is it more along the lines of like the going blank
Pelican.
cases?
So the shell itself is pretty much a standard size outside shell, but we did have a custom inside mold made to fit the iron perfectly. So down to the millimeter, it'll slide just right in there.
Oof.
Yeah, and then we'll have our little Smith+Rune logos on the zipper pulls.
Nice.
I cannot wait to see that, because that's going to be an awesome unboxing.
Is there a
experience.
finger hole to get in there and take it out?
There is. I actually.
I was like, that's cool that it's perfect, but then you're like, cool.
Yeah, I actually did like 3 fingers wide with my dial calipers and add a little bit.
There you go. Easy. What's up, Geo? I haven't seen Geo M in a long time. What's up, man? Been hiding. So, here on Mechs on Deck, we like to get a little spicy sometimes. So we're going to talk about design in general. We've seen, as of lately, we're starting to run out of ways to cut a rectangle, especially in the 60 and 65 variables or variants. So in this kind of as more boards come out, it's easier and easier to accidentally make something look something else. So as a designer, how do you kind of approach this new wave where it's kind of like, I mean, you're doing the TKL right now. It's like, how do you make something different when you're so limited on what can actually be
done? Yeah, so I mean, that's a huge thing. And I would just want to say that, like, any thoughts that I have on this are going to be like my own personal opinions about it. And I know people will probably associate me and say, oh, well, Smith+Rune feels this way, but it's just how I view these type of things. And I'm an engineer. I'm not a marketing guy or a linguist. So I'm not going to be able to like spin this perfectly and say exactly what I want to be able to say.
If you have complaints, just PM Vox. All right.
Exactly. Standing by, probably sweating at his keyboard right now. But no, I think obviously I wouldn't want anybody to just blatantly copy somebody else. But I do believe in like capitalism too. So if I'm not doing enough to be able to fulfill that market demand, because right now we're in this point where, demand just far outstrips supply. Like Keycult could have probably ran 1,000 165s and sold through them all, but they just can't handle it yet, So I think it would be wrong for somebody to say, well, I'm going to take a 165, like almost verbatim, and then just go rerun it and sell more of it. But at the same time, if people are pulling design cues from other boards and making it what they like, because for some things, there's certain aspects about a board that are just a deal breaker. So what if somebody made your TKL, but with that left-mounted USB port? To them, that might be the deal breaker, is like, oh, well, this doesn't have that, so I'm never going to buy it. Well, if they make their own, that's pulling inspiration from other boards. And if they can run it and do it better than the person before, then, I mean, I'm all for that part of it. And again, I say that now because nobody's taken my design. This is the first board we've ever really done. I haven't seen anything too much like it. And, I might react 100% differently if I were put in the position of, hey, check out this board with this nice badge up here that, has a little S on it, and it's like a snake or something, and it's solid bottom and stainless steel on the top. Yeah, I could myself maybe acting 100% different than how I'm acting now. But I think there's just more than enough room for people to be able to take what their favorite aspects of a board are and make it something themselves, not necessarily a verbatim copy. But in those regards too, it's like, where do you draw the line? Like keycap sets, there's only so many colorways that you can do. With switches, like if we're mad that somebody's stealing a colorway or a board design or a board layout, What about the fact that Gateron, waited until Cherry's patents expired, and now thank God that they did, that we have all these crazy awesome switches. But it's like, should we be condemning switch manufacturers for cloning an MX switch? No, they're putting their own spin on it and making it different or making it better. Like in these cases, they're doing it better than what Cherry is able to do. So if somebody can come out with an awesome 65% board and they can do it better than I can do, it's either more power to them, or it's going to put me in a position where I'm going to try that much harder. I'm going to put that much more research into it, push the design envelope that much more, and try to make it to where I'm the number one board. So
competition breeds innovation. Right?
Yep,
Like that's how it is, and it's innovation, and also like maybe sometimes it makes things cost less. Granted, in our hobby, that might not happen until we're more in line with the actual manufacturers, and we have a larger role there. But having that competition is really, really good for the community, because that's how we get things like, if you think about it, a board that came out last year, it's crazy that it's been almost 6 months, but the Polaris, right? 2 years ago, when gaskets were first just kind of becoming a thing, no one would have ever thought that a gasket mounted board would be under $300. Like,
right.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go and like clip you saying what you just said, make it its own video, and then anytime anyone accuses anyone of anything stealing wise, I'm just gonna copy paste that because like that was just perfectly spoken. Because the other thing too, which is this is the weird part of our hobby. There's no copyrights.
Right.
We don't have. You can't copyright 60% board. You can't copyright rectangle. You can't. I mean, we're not really talking about keycaps because that's its own whole other thing when it comes to colors and all that. But like, yes, the Fiel and the 5 degree are very, very similar, but they are different. I have one of each, and if you hold them in your hand on both, you're like, yeah, these are very, very different boards. They look similar, but they are extremely different. And you can have board. I mean, if you just look at the polycarbonate Think 6.5 versus the aluminum Think 6.5, they sound and feel so much. They just it's almost a different board.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if you make it different enough, then that shouldn't matter.
Right.
Although I don't think anyone's taken the Evolve on right now.
It's like, look, that innovation comes from that too. So he, talking with Nathan, he liked what I did with my plate, and then he was like, "How do I do this one step further?" And it just made it that much more awesome, in my opinion.
Well, that, and I think, I forgot what it's called, but if someone knows this, there is a theory about it's a World War II warplane theory where instead of ships that or planes that would come down, I promise I'm going somewhere with this. Ships that or planes that would come down, they would evaluate where the bullet holes were. And then some guy figured out, no, don't reinforce where the bullet holes are, reinforce where the bullet holes are not, because that's what's structurally sound. And so taking that into design, it's like, you can like look to other things. You can't really design without having an idea of what's in mind. So find stuff you don't like, fix it. Find stuff you do like, apply it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I think a lot of these boards, that's how we're going to get, other boards kind of have to fail for the best boards to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and look for what, for people who are designing. I sent a picture on a napkin to someone and said, I want this, and this is what I don't like. But technically I have designed a board. But but once again, I said, this is what I like about a board. This is what I don't like about a board. I want to keep this, improve upon this, get rid of this, and fix it and make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I want to approach designing a board. And so that's, I think people need to understand that it might not be copying. It might be going, I like this, I want more.
Yeah.
And that diversity between something like your design of the Baka to something like an Iron 165 or like the Evolve, that disparity, I guess, the big change in the level of design is amazing in the community as well, because you can have something that's like very simple, and you can have something that's so far designed to be this peak performance, right? Like it's the peak. We're trying to get to that peak level, but we can still appreciate the classics, and that's what will keep the community healthy.
Mm-hmm. And there's rooms at all different levels. There's always going to need that to be that KBD fans, 5-degree case. Those people that are getting into it. Like, you don't start drinking wine and start with $1,000 bottle or something like that. I'm drinking it out of a box.
Yeah, dude, slap the bag. Slap that bag as much as you can. So then that's why, I remember, I forgot what board it was, but a 65% board came out, and it was very similar layout because Dixie kind of rethought up the design of the bottom. Then another 65% board came out that was, if not exactly the same, similar. People started accusing them of stealing, and it's like, is it stealing or is it using something that's very good and applying that to their own design?
Right.
And it could literally be something completely different. It could look completely different on the back. It could have a completely different side profile, but people were so hyper focused on one aspect of it that it was like, we have to throw stones.
Mm-hmm.
So just don't throw stones.
So Urban asks, serious question: what is one group buy that you wish you joined but missed?
One group buy that I missed. The Kepler, 100%.
That's a beautiful board.
I mean, I get it, because you want to be able to enjoy both your hobbies in one: weightlifting and keyboards.
Right. Now, that could also be taken another way. What's one group buy that I've joined that I didn't join that I wanted to? You could say pretty much every Key Cult raffle I've entered and lost too.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah, the Kepler is a board that I feel like when it first released, I didn't fully understand it to the full extent that I couldn't really appreciate what it was and what it is fully, if that makes sense.
For me, I looked at it and I was like, oh, this has got these big chunky bezels on there. I don't like it. But it's kind of like whenever you see a render of a keycap set, and then you see it in people's posts on r/MK, and you're like, holy crap, that looks really good when you actually see the real thing. So then I saw the Kepler in real life in Seattle, and I was just like, oh, I messed up. I should have gotten that.
Screwed the pooch on that one.
Better in real life than I thought it looked in pictures, which is often the case with a lot of things. So yeah, that's the regret.
Yeah, I saw Starstones in NorCal, his Kepler, and I was just like, I get it now. I get why people were lining
Especially
up to pay for this.
Those photos with that rainbow PVD on there. Woof.
Schmexy. What's one that do you have a biggest keyboard regret?
Oh, all sorts of stuff that I've purchased. And essentially anything that I've bought for a flipped price, I've ultimately never kept. So if I buy a keyboard for $1,000, at the end of the day, I look at it and I'm like, wow, this thing's not bringing me $1,000 worth of joy, and I end up selling it.
Does
So
not spark
typically
joy.
anything that I buy flipped, I almost always sell. In fact, I can't think of anything that I've kept that I've bought at a flipped price. It just doesn't bring me the joy that I thought it would had I gotten it at the group buy price. And it's like, oh yeah, well then, yeah, this is a nice $500 keyboard, and to me, it's worth $500. But I would say those are probably the biggest. Shouldn't have done those. But luckily, like, our hobby is just this. It's so unique in the fact that things appreciate in value. It's unlike almost anything else.
Yep.
To where, oh no, I'm going to buy this thing for a couple $100 and it's worth 50% to 2 times more than that. So it's really unique that it's almost like keyboards are just as liquid to me as cash in my bank account.
Mhm.
That at any given time, it's like, oh, if I ever needed money, I got half a dozen GMK sets that I know I could sell within an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that money is ready to it's funny you mentioned that because I'm sitting here, I'm like, there's not a lot of things that I've gotten off of Mech Market that I still have. You got lucky, Eric. Eric got super lucky. We were sitting around talking about the Orange 75 and just kind of shooting the shit, and then like 2 minutes later, he was just like, "Oh hey, this board popped up. Should I get it?" I was like, "Fuck yeah!" And it was like the guy was in Dallas.
Yeah.
Like it was a local meetup, so we could see it before.
Yeah. It was in Dallas, and it was like not very high above group buy price too. So like I didn't pay a flip price. So it was never a situation where I was like, man, this sucks, or not this sucks, but I can appreciate it still. Cause I definitely get what you were saying about you can buy a key cult at, $2,000. It's a fantastic board, but there's always going to be more key cult raffles and their prices are going to stay fairly the same. Like,
Mhm.
If the price goes up, there's going to be a reason the price goes up. They're
Right.
going to do something cooler that's going to make their prices.
Well, and as the community, as everyone else in the community, and even key cult as well gets better, the gaps are going to close, right? Like the difference between a key cult and something else, or a TGR, or these really expensive boards that are considered the highest end, the gaps between those and what everything else is, that's going to start to close a little bit.
Mhm.
I mean, and so that is such an interesting idea because there's like when it comes to mounting, now that gasket is kind of becoming the norm, unless there's something new, it's like, look, we released the gasket 00, inexpensive board. The what am I? It starts with a P. Why am I going Polaris? I kept thinking Pandora.
Pandora.
Polaris. Pandora.
Going back to Pandora.
Going. So the Pandora by Smith+Rune and Mechs on Deck coming 2024. Letting everyone know now. But the with the Polaris and all that, that's becoming more and more normal. And so you kind of a lot of the feel, and that's where I think you guys are shining right now, Smith+Rune, is that you have gone so intense in the plate. That the mounting system's great, but the plate's going to get arguably the most. If you change stuff about the plate, you're going to get more feeling from that than any sort of mounting system.
Mhm.
So those gaps are definitely closing fast. So I mean that was my kind of big step on the Baka was I want a fixed plate. I want just a slab of brass and only holes for the switches. Because I like stiff. I like it stiff.
Yeah.
Kraz cars here. Man, there's a blast from the past.
Blast from the past. It's an old gaming buddy of mine. How you doing, my dude?
So are you gonna do Mr. Petrov?
The health question one? Sure,
Yes.
I'll do that one. So this is from Mr. Petrov. I have a serious health maintenance question for Luke. I guess he gets a fair bit of physical therapy with his lifting, etc. So what is his favorite sort of massage?
I've actually only ever had one massage in my whole life, and it was just like a generic full body massage. But when it comes to that, my muscles are usually so tight that I'm a giant wuss. So it's like more Swedish massage than anything, where they're just like pushing on me all nice and light, and I'm like, oh, that feels good. But I did have a girlfriend one time that like broke up all my fascia all over my body. So it's like when your skin just sticks to your muscle and it's like not mobile at all. And that was really cool. And it was really painful though. But yeah, I liked getting the fascia broken up all in my muscle.
There you go. Kraskar, this is a keyboard talk show, and we're talking about massage.
I was eating Petrov yesterday for breakfast and an espresso, but I got a sore throat and I didn't want to get him sick. So
there you go.
I was about to go run over to my bag and grab the thing of Dayquil that's started here on Monday and is now like to right there.
Now you've obtained so many lists that you're on. Ammonia, drinking Dayquil for fun. We got some.
They didn't like it at my last job when I Google searched Amfo online. So,
This is another great question. I know gasket is cool and it has its place, but no gasket also can bring a unique sound signature, which I think can be manipulated to actually be even more pleasing to the than a pure isolation gasket. Thoughts?
I mean, when I was looking at gasket material, I talked to Jay from Top Clack, and he's like, I've tried over 40 different ones or something like that. He thought that cork actually sounded like the best. Like cork in his mind was like, oh, it sounds amazing, but it feels trash, like just garbage. And then I think the other one was like nitrile or NRB. He said he felt the best. So I think they're easy enough to replace in boards that you can try to see and experiment with what fits you the best. Like right now, you could go out and probably buy, 2mm cork shelf liner. It's got a, Poisson's ratio of 1, so it's not like it's going to expand laterally in the board. Cut it to whatever you want, and then just go slap it in a board and try it out for yourself. So that played a lot of consideration into our gasket material, and that's why we ended up going with Poron, just because we had originally sent to Vox some nitrile gaskets, and it just doesn't compress as easy, and it has a lot more lateral expansion, so you'd have to have thinner strips. So we just didn't want the general user experience to be, I got to torque these screws down at like 50 newtons or something like that to be able to get the board to actually close on itself, just because the gasket material is so stiff, even though it might feel the best. So I think that drives a lot too, is just making something for the community that they're not gonna, the regular person's not gonna mess up and like strip a screw bolt or something like that, because it has to be taken into consideration when you design something. Versus what can sound the best, what can feel the best, or that happy medium between the two.
Yeah. I like the idea of using Poron over something like the plastics, the more rubbery gaskets, just because it is the foam. It does isolate. I feel like it isolates a little bit better as well.
And it has like an instant rebound too. So if you ever like decompressed Poron, it springs back to its shape like instantly. It doesn't keep a dent or hold a shape from where it was compressed.
Yeah, because I am worried about, some of these gasket boards in 5 years. What are those gaskets going to look like?
It's just going to, it's definitely going to dehydrate and crack over time. It's going to be a wearable item that's going to have to be replaced. So the good thing is, like, if you take the design of a key colt or our iron or some of these other ones like the Volcano, they use a very, very generic type of gasket that anybody can just go cut to shape themselves. You can buy a sheet of Poron off of eBay for $10 and cut it, the strips themselves that have 3M sticky on one side, and replace them all yourself. Or with the Volcano, you can just buy any kind of rubber strand and jam it in that wedge. It'll be the ones that have like a specific gasket that I'm the most worried about. Like I have no idea how to change a gasket, like on a unicorn or something like that rubber O-ring.
Yeah.
Like where do I find one that exact size?
That is the one that scares me the most, is those big O-rings, because those are going to be, when you talk about you're a mistake away, like that one's like a mistake away from just, you get a small nick in that. Over time, that nick gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then one day you just hear this loud pop and it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think it would be, this is just for those who are designers or release stuff. Maybe that 3-year mark, just do a quick little group buy for your gasket replacements.
Right.
It's an easy way. It would be a really easy way to make a lot of money, a lot of people happy, and you can make a decent profit, because then it's like, hey, You can buy this and we can show you how to do it, or you can pay us slightly extra and we'll just ship them to you and you just take them off, put them right back.
Right.
Because
It's like
people will pay for convenience.
somebody just did the 910 PCB and plate like group buy. It's like you took an old board. Hey, by now people have probably all built them all. Maybe they want to try something new with all these new switches. Here, let's just re-release PCBs and plates for an
Fox Lab, if you're listening, please, for the love of
Yeah, please redo
Re-release
all
the
of your
75.
PCBs. It doesn't, not just the orange, but all of them, because they're all one-offs. So,
but if you guys have questions, by the way, or I've got one I'm about to read, please just at Mechs on deck us, and we will ask Luke, or if you have questions for us as well, please ask away. Next question. So Wilson 1155, we did go over this earlier, but can you just very, very quickly and briefly go over the patina techniques you had for us?
All of our stuff is going to ship with a UV coating on it to protect it from oxidation. So I knocked it off with a brass wire brush and then put it in a Tupperware with ammonia vapor, essentially. So a pool of ammonia on the bottom, set it above it, so that way it was in the vapor part of it, and then sprayed it with some salt water solution. So I just added some salt to a spray bottle with some water, sprayed it, stuck it in there for a couple hours. It'd be fine.
Easy peasy.
pretty simple.
I'm excited to see the person that goes all out and patinas everything.
Jeff is going to do that to his FE.
I was going to say,
excited to see Jeff do that to his FE.
I think Jeff has posted his Langlandia is who we're talking about. He's posted his picture of his FE probably like 5 times in the chat with Handerbite on it. I think he's just trying to make it a meme. How do you feel about the Handerbite on the FE?
I have to give him credit for the long con of it. So he actually took it from me at the SoCal meetup. So it was like the morning that we were leaving, he just grabs my FE and he's like, so do you want to keep the Kiroshiro keycap set off of it, or can I take that too? And I was just like dumbfounded. I was just like, keep it, I guess. And he just starts pulling off the keycaps and then he puts it in his bag. And like, that was it. And I had no idea why he did it. I thought he just wanted to like see the board in person and feel it or whatever. But no, he actually had planned to take it from me. So that way when this keycap set got in, he could put it on there just to trigger Vox. So it's pretty awesome if you ask me. And his other idea he said was he wanted to do like a build video or something with it from not the designers, just to see his user experience on how it all went together. Just anything to get a board into his hands and not tell them or tell us what he was doing with it. So I got to give him credit that he played the long con. And
my favorite is that he went against what 65% the right column is, so he could add more column. Like he didn't use what they made for it because that would be less color. So he just grabbed more keys that would make it even uglier and put it on there. So Moon asks, Luke, any chance you have a gray SE on hand?
Vox has all of the SEs on hand. He's a hoarder.
Kept
them all.
PM Vox and tell him how mad.
So what iron, do you have any prototypes at all? Do you still have the PC?
Just the PC one right now, of which I did put a hot swap RGB backlit PCB into it from Arama Koyu, just to also trigger Vox. So we pretty much, we do whatever we can to upset him. So yeah.
Wow.
Sounds like a fun guy.
I still can't believe that the story of Langlandia. That's funny.
What is Vox gonna do? Fight you?
Right.
Yeah, right. What's retaliation?
I guess he just keeps all the prototypes, which kind of sucks, but no.
Yeah.
This session's 9/10 of the law, right?
Exactly.
It's true. It's true. Is the PC? I know there was. Is that ever gonna run?
We'll probably do a PC in the future. Yeah, it's just the bottom weight is so giant. So essentially, when we made the SE, it was let's just throw as much weight in there as possible. So it's like horizontal, like left to right. It's as big as I can get it. Top to bottom, it goes all the way from the daughter board down to like 3 millimeters or something in the front. And it was just too much weight for the PC board to where if you took the board again, if you're using a keyboard like you should be using it, you'll never know. But if you take it and like start bending it, then you could run into issues. So
Yeah,
we decided not to run the PC.
I was talking to Drifting Bunnies about creating doing like a one-off polycarb Baka.
Mhm.
It was like either get a polycarb weight or aluminum weight, because the brass weight will just, after you pick it up about 6 or 7 times, it'll just strip the screws right out. You'll pick it up and the weight will just be sitting there, and then you no longer have. And so
Right.
it's like, oh, okay, we could do like an aluminum. You could change the color and make it a little fun. So
Right. So when we do a PC version, maybe in an Iron 265 or something, it will be with like a revised redesign, probably bottom weight or something different to make it acceptable for that type of material, because the original design was for aluminum and brass, and I essentially just gave those files to my manufacturer and said, hey, can you make this out of polycarbonate?
Which looks amazing, by the way. It does look
Well,
really
it looks great. It looks greite. The seamless side, I think, on the PCs are the way to go, just because it's all that uniform color itself. There's no diffraction between the two when light hits it.
And I've always loved the way brass looks on PC. Just looks so cool.
Jordo Wag asks, or yells actually, shout out to Mama Doe, please leave.
I had Mama Doe's Xiaolong Bao for lunch this afternoon, and then walked right next door and had a Thai iced tea boba. It was pretty good.
There you go.
They were in there actually pressing their own sugar cane through a machine, stripping the sugar off of it.
That's awesome.
It was pretty legit.
That's why, like, I know this not pressing. Sure, I'm sure they do, maybe, but I don't know if you're a fan of Dr. Pepper. People go ape shit for
23 flavors.
Fucking hate Dr. Pepper. And I'm literally born in the same city that it's from. But they have like the sugarcane Dr. Pepper here because it's made in Texas. And so they have
double Dr. Pepper is what it
double,
was
that's
called.
what it is. Double. I was sitting here trying to think of what it was. But it's like made with real sugar, and people will go. I've seen actual like yelling arguments in my apartment because some dude opened up somebody else's Dublin Dr. Pepper and was like, but it's made with real sugar cane. I was like, I don't care. I will pour out both because.
So for my real job, I do process automation for a company, and I work a lot with beverage, like breweries and soft drink manufacturers. So the reason for real sugar is that the sucrose will actually invert. So they'll dose a certain amount of sugar in based on weight. So it's called like a Brix measurement, which is dissolved solids essentially. And then over time, that sugar will invert and it actually tastes sweeter. So the proper way to do it is to calculate how far along in that inversion process it is, and then dose the correct amount of sugar so that way it meets its peak sweetness out of the can that way. So usually when you have a fresh sugar cane or granulated sugar beverage, it'll taste sweeter over time as that sugar inverts on itself and goes from its left-handed molecule to its right-handed molecule.
Science.
God, I feel so much smarter.
Which we found out was a thing with what? Thalidomide back in the day, right?
Totally.
It's the same molecule.
Exactly.
Dude, that's
words.
It's like Dublin Dr. Pepper and then Mexican Coke with the sugar cane.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Well, and I know the other thing too is people are like, it tastes so good. And I'm like, yeah, you're also drinking out of a glass bottle. Go get a normal soda out of a glass bottle. It'll taste better.
It's true.
So
Mhm.
But
I gotta
any
go
more-
grab my charger really quick because my thing just beat 10% battery.
Oh,
okay. Well,
if you
we
have
will,
any more questions for Luke, please go ahead and ask them. Be sure to add us because he is not looking at chat, so we will have to relay these questions to him. So make sure to add Mechs on deck.
yeah, and while he's gone, real quick, I'm just going to kind of power through the sponsors really quick. You can go to mechsondeck.dixiemech.com to pick up GMK Modern Dolch Light and also be looking on the lookout for Mech Madness as well as the Dixie Dozen. If you get in on the base kit, you are entered to win 20% off coupons for the next 12 months. That is one a month, by the way. Zap Cables, he makes some of the best cables. Oh my God, there it is. Zap Cables. He makes the best cables in the business. He's got some awesome white coiled cables right now that you can get, and he's also got some great desk mats, project keyboards. You can go pick up lilac switches as well as the other linear one, the mauve switches, as well as GMK Perestroika, and the Tengu is only wrapping up for the next 2 days. And next up, switchmod.net/Mechs on deck, 4% off lube and springs, as well as the T60 is on there. And you can also go to switchmod.net/Chewy or switchmod.net/Osiris with a 0 to get $5 off GMK Metaverse version 2, GMK Metaverse 2. So I had to not look because I didn't want to be distracted.
I was sitting here watching. I have a little thing that shows us our viewers, how long we've been live, how many clips, and our clips. As soon as you showed back up, it went from 2 clips this stream to 4. So there are some
Double.
people. They were real excited about that tank.
So my first question is, can you consider that a t-shirt?
Yeah, I think so. I bought it at Forever 21, which only sells t-shirts.
How much of your wardrobe consists of tank tops?
So I moved back to Colorado about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, from Florida, from living in West Palm Beach. And the tank top was an everyday wear. So the only time I would not wear a tank top was if I was going to like a bar or a club that required me to not wear a tank top because of a dress code.
Mhm.
So I think total I probably have like 15 or 16 different ones. So
Hey, if you got it, flaunt it, right? Urban the Second asks, hypothetical situation for Luke. Let's say you find 3 boards you and your 2 friends are looking for. Do you A, get one for yourself and not tell them, get one for your friend and rub it in the singled out friend, or C, offer it to all 3?
I personally would go with B and pick up 2 RX 78s and rub the third into Urban's face.
I think all of these questions that Urban is asking
Very personal.
are situations that have already transpired, and he's just trying to bring old feelings back up.
The real question is, if I traded a Think 6.5 in black polycarbonate to somebody on Mech Market 2 days ago and picked up a third RX 78, would I give it to him or to Meka from La Trillium Caps? So I don't know.
Ooh.
I guess we'll never know. But that's okay.
Y'all on Caps. There we go. I think, yeah.
Becca, she's really nice. I don't know. She's
also got
super
mad
nice.
shoe game.
Yeah, she does.
Her Instagram, she's got some solid shoes.
And the fact
if you're watching, you've got great shoes.
10, that was pretty legit.
Sorry, say that again.
And the fact that she had a TGR 910, that was pretty legit.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's about that time for the final 2 questions. The first one being the more serious, the latter being the less serious. The first one being, What is your favorite and least favorite thing about the community right now?
So I mean, my favorite thing for keyboards ever was probably just designing something that people actually wanted and actually wanted to give money for. So as an engineer, like this was more accomplishing to me than getting my degree or any career I've had or anything like that. Just taking something from my mind and making it into something that somebody actually wants, you know. So that right there was probably the best part of the hobby for me. Second to that, I would say is just, you know, all the friends that I've made along the way. Like I go to meetups now, not to go check out new keyboards. Yeah, it's really cool. You know, Forge Carbon 65. Oh, can't wait to get that. But to just talk to all my friends that I've made along the way and put a face to a name and things like that. Least favorite part of it, I would say, is probably just the scarcity. You know, it sucks having to pay double or triple or 4 times for something that you want. So I can't wait till we get to the day, and I don't know if that day is ever going to come to where, you know, it's like a lot of other things out there where I want it, I can go buy it because I'm a stupid fat American and I want instant gratification.
I don't think the fat very fits
Yeah, man,
fits in
you're so fat.
very much.
Good Lord.
Just generalizing the worldview on Americans and their instant gratification.
Heine Bush subbed, and
It's calling
I
you
think
out.
I think this dude has been wearing the same shirt since KeyCon.
It's probably true. I mean, I have 2 of the exact same pink ones.
I mean, when you look that good, do you need to change shirts?
It depends on the time of day. So KeyCon, or no, at SoCal.
He did correct himself and said SoCal.
SoCal, sorry, yeah. SoCal, I woke up wearing a yellow one as the sun was rising, switched to the pink midday, and ended the evening with the darker purple.
The formal purple.
Mhm. Going out.
How many OSAs can you bench?
OSAs. I don't even know what that is.
It is an Alice.
Yeah, it's an
Oh,
open.
It's like,
it's,
yeah, it weighs like 5-6 pounds.
yeah, it's not.
Yeah. Oh,
So
like 61 of them, I guess.
there
The
you
most
go.
I've ever benched was 305.
Boom. Boom. Well, last question. Actually, you know, before we answer this, can you give us some power poses? Like, come on.
Well,
Oh,
God.
I hope this whole thing is clipped, by the way. There it is. Just thank you. Needed that. That was more of a personal thing. You know, everybody else can share it, but that's more for me later. But, my last question: The Office or Parks and Rec?
The Office, 100%.
Dude,
Dude,
2020 is
it's
the year of The
2020.
Office, apparently.
Office
I
is
was like-
winning.
I can just throw it on in the background while I'm doing something. I don't have to pay attention to it. Kevin spills the chili. I mean, how can you go wrong?
That's the most depressing. They have a Funko of that.
Yeah.
I just recently restarted my 14th run through of The Office. So
It's just the best. Like, I'm doing something else, I put it on. There's those classic moments that still get you. I think it just wins because of the fact that it's like, what? How many seasons did it finish at? Like
9.
9? Yeah, I mean, it's got more than Parks and Rec, and it had more of those classic moments that.
Although it should have
we grew
ended
up
at
in.
8. They should have compressed it, and the last 2
True.
seasons are rough. But
True.
yeah, I mean it's a fantastic show. It's not that Parks and Rec is bad by any means. I see what you're doing, by the way.
I
Like
read
it's
something
Terry Crews.
that they said The Office is really popular because of the familiarity of the settings. Like it's always the same people sitting in the same place. It's not like the show's bouncing around to a lot of different locations. So people feel comfortable with that.
And Colt, you shut your mouth. Scott's Tots is probably the most unwatchable episode of television ever.
That one's rough. It's hard to get through.
So,
Worse than the Fly episode from Breaking Bad,
that one's weird.
or all of season 8 of Game of Thrones.
Anyway, so thanks for coming on. But no, thank you very, very much, guys. Be on the lookout. I don't know. Are there going to be extras of the Iron 165?
Yeah.
Okay, so there will be extras. So be on the lookout for that. As well as more from Smith+Rune. I'm excited to get to see what's next for Smith+Rune. Thank you very, very much for joining us, showing off your cannons, as well as talking about some awesome keyboards.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Where's the best way to find you and find out more information about the boards and everything?
I would say Geek Hack, and then on our Discord is probably the best. Discord for like short little updates, Geek Hack for the major ones.
So I have a quick question to chat. How far along is Apiary? Because I know last time we were like about to, she was, and I'm done. So we do have a good backup for those of you who like dual screen watch like keyboard streamer time.
I think she might be almost done. Trying to get it up here on my phone, but yes, we definitely appreciate you coming on, Mr. Luke, and to show off your guns and make us all feel bad about ourselves and how we probably had aspirations at the beginning of the year to end 2020 looking like you, but we'll never get there.
Chipotle is the way.
Chipotle is the way.
Chipotle and protein shakes.
So what is your ideal Chipotle order? That's a good question.
So a salad, which they just recently changed to a super green, so it includes bullshit like kale in it, and they don't massage their kale, so it tastes horrible. So a salad with steak, mild salsa, and fajita veggies. That's it. That's like 280 calories or something.
There you go.
The no dairy route. See, I gotta have my sour cream and cheese. Come on.
No, you can't.
Burrito,
You gotta be calorie restrictive.
double
That's
rice, no beans, extra hot sauce, chicken, sour cream, cheese, cilantro. Love it. All the calories. That's why I look the way I do. You look personal life choice. Anyway, we're gonna raid I am you or you. Seems like Apiary might be wrapped. We love that Josh, just like we love all the other 19 billion fucking Joshes in this community.
Yeah, you will be at KeyCon, correct, in Denver, as you said earlier.
Yep. So yeah, I live in Boulder, Colorado. I'll be there at KeyCon. We'll have a booth, and I guess my real name's on the stream. So go look me up on LinkedIn if you want. Send me a request. Get me a better job. I don't know.
Just like what is it? What is the term on LinkedIn? Like not upvote, but it's like commend you for certain attributes.
Oh yeah. You can endorse me, I think.
Yeah,
There
endorse. That's what it is.
There we go.
Well, thanks, guys. We're gonna hit up I am you or you. Be sure to check him out. He's got an amazing stream, and we will join our Discord. Hit us up. We will be making our announcement for next week's streams. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, Switch Tester.